No, this is not rage bait, but yes, this is going to piss some people off. And you guys know my criticisms of ICAST, right? We did a video on it last year. I wore pink shorts like 10 years ago and did it, dude. And I have some very pointed criticisms because the fact is there's very few universals left in fishing, right? Maybe the koike, but like things where we all kind of come together and we're like, that's cool, that's a main event, right? Maybe the Bassmaster Classic and pretty much ICAST. And I don't want to see that disappear. I'm all about niches, specialties, guys kind of diverging from the path, creating new things, but you need a few universals to kind of keep everything sort of centered, right? And ICAST is one of those things, but the fact is, everything has a lifespan. Whether it's a technique, whether it's a bait, whether it's a fishing show that's still acting like it's 1992. There need to be some changes, dude. You need to evolve or you get left behind. So what I'm gonna do in this video, and feel free to disagree with me down in the comments box or critique me, dude. These are just my opinions, but there's some very specific concepts that I think need to be reviewed, evolved, reassessed when it comes to ICAST and the way they approach what is supposed to be the biggest fishing show in the world. Point number one, and I mentioned this last year, and there was some disagreement because the concept of ICAST is it's a trade show, right? It's for vendors meeting brands, and then the pros kind of mingle in there and basically do their deals for the year, right? That's the traditional kind of format of it. But the fact is, products are much faster to move to market, which means in some way, the consumer, us, the fisherman, the angler, the weekend guy, we need to be involved in this show. Whether it's one day of entry where we can go in, mingle with the pros, mingle with the brands, mingle with influencers, or whether it's multiple days, right? Guys are getting in there anyways who don't belong in there. If it's a trade show, that's just the facts, dude. If you ever go, there's a million people in there that are not vendors, they're not media people, they're not pros, they're not brands, right? They're just hanging out. So why not like go full bore and open it up? The space between production to market is much smaller than it used to be. ICAST used to be kind of like the hey, before we go into winter, these are the new things we're thinking about for next year. Well, product cycles don't work like that, dude. Product cycles are like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, if that, and then they become irrelevant. Well, a trade show, that's main focus is to focus on those products and bring them to the vendors, but then I guess the consumer gets it via media. Like they have to evolve that timeline as well. So one of the biggest things that I see is taking the elitism out of it, taking the trade show branding and creating some kind of blended approach where you integrate us, the consumer. We're the ones buying it, dude. It's going to come to market. We're going to purchase it. You need to integrate that consumer somewhere into this because it makes it much more of a trade show and makes it an event, dude, much like the Classic. And I think that's really important for keeping it one of those big universals. This is kind of along the same lines, but it's slightly different. And it's sort of an expansion on opening it up to the consumer, right? Well, the fact is new product releases, they don't need ICAST, bro. Like I can show you a new product like 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and it'll sell, it'll get on Tackle Warehouse, it'll go through the new product sales cycle. Like you don't need ICAST for that spectacle of a product release anymore. So the fact is some of those focus points that ICAST has, the mission statements that it provides for these brands, need to change, right? So does it become more, hey, let's teach the end user how to use the product, right? Let's give them something that's of value. This is a new product, but hey, we got like Skeet Reese and Kevin Van Dam and forget all these young guys to come in and show different techniques, how they work, like how this new product works, how the new Berkeley stuff works, you know, that the Dylan Nutt one on. So like, I think there's an opportunity for changing some of these formats, kind of still keeping the same general audience, the general kind of crew that's there, but let's change like what they're doing and what their mission is so it's more broadly appealing and there's more value to a broader audience, not just sell, make a deal in the back room kind of thing. All right, third thing, and this one is a big one to me because as you guys know, if you watch the video for years, I'm all about the blue collar guy, dude. When I started doing this stuff, I had a freaking John boat that I built, 1977, paid 500 bucks for it. I had holes in my deck and my track. Like, I'm kind of dirty, right? I'm thankful that I've been kind of successful. I got kind of a fancy boat. I still can't believe some of the stuff that I have, but it's been a cool opportunity. But in the end, like, my people are the weekend warriors, dude. The guys freaking running around, grinding it out, trying to have some fun, and just are passionately like involved in this sport. And a lot of those guys are the small creators, right? The small innovators that build something completely unique, right? And they need to get it to market. They need to get a bigger audience. ICAST has become so bougie and so elite that the price point to even participate, if you're a small innovator, a small company that's looking to get some notoriety, some recognition to kind of blow your stuff up, bro, you're X'd out. Like, you can't play that game. You can't have a garage idea and bring it to market because there's not enough capital to even play in that realm. One of the missions of ICAST is to highlight some of these smaller innovators, to give them the opportunity to bring their product to a wide audience, right? To show some niche kind of cool things. But they're pricing those innovators, those garage guys, those guys that are so passionate about the sport like we are, right out of the show. All right, this one is a pet peeve, dude. And this has to do with the elitism, the old boys club, whatever you want to call it. But the best in show like concept, the best in show prize has become a joke, right? Like, I think it was like a duck 5 years ago, and that's great, you know, quack, quack. But like, you guys got to get real with it, man. Like, at least define some categories, maybe make them more specific. Best in forward facing, best in soft plastic innovation, you know, best in, like, best in show, and you select a freaking eel bait that doesn't sell the next year because nobody catches fish on it, but it looked really cool. Like, that's not a viable, realistic, or an honest way to approach giving a prize for what's supposed to be like the highlight of the show, like the bread and butter, the frosting on the cake, right? So once again, it comes back to this concept of mission. What are you trying to do? And redefining that in more of a modern way, dude. Right now, there is no universal, right? Maybe the koike, right? That'll probably win, but whose koike will it be? The 47,000 that are out there, or the hideout, the original? So defining maybe in a new, modern, maybe more relative way, some of these concepts where they're selecting and highlighting something, and that goes back to the small innovator. How is the small innovator supposed to play in that? They're never going to get any play because, one, they can't be at the show, and two, because there's such a tight political circle to this, they're never going to get picked because it's not that guy's buddy. It's not going based upon creativity, based upon innovation. It's a who knows who kind of thing. This has been a complaint of mine for years, and it's the show timing. And I can't harp enough on this. And I know there's some reasons why they do it, but for the most part, it's from like an archaic kind of aged out structure. A lot of times these companies would bring products out, they'd celebrate them, they'd release them, they'd be like, hey, you wanna buy some, pre-orders, stuff like that. And basically they'd do that during the show, mid-July, and then they'd produce that product following months, and then it'd be ready for market on shelves December, January, somewhere in that range. Well, like we talked about, the product cycle from a construction, of a production, of a sell standpoint, it's so much faster now. It doesn't need those 4 or 5, 6 months until it actually reaches the shelves. So really, that structure, that timing is no longer necessary. The other thing too, and this is where the Bassmaster Classic has so much value, they go in that mid-springtime, right? Everybody's excited. They've been locked in the house in the winter, waiting to get out on the water. Well, the whole concept behind ICAST is excitement. It's the spectacle, the anticipation of these products, what we're going to do with them throughout the season, how we're going to catch fish, how they work, right? Well, that would be much better suited in like December or January, dude. And everybody wants to go to Florida in the winter, right? I go down there, dude. It'd be a great opportunity to highlight Florida, to make people kind of come down. It'd be like a tourist destination, right? Not only an event for sales, for networking, for marketing, but it'd be like, dude, let's go on vacation. Let's go fishing down there. Because the fishing in Florida, it's decent during the summer, but it ain't freaking great, dude. So like, this would be a much better opportunity as well for some of the tertiary events that happen. They run that ICAST tournament. I'm not a super big fan of running tournaments during the dead heat of summer, and it's just not good for the fish, right? So you could run that tournament during a great time of year. You could get all this excitement, all this hype going about new products with like 4 or 5, 6 months of the season to go. And because you don't have that product production cycle that you need to respect, because things come to market so much faster, like, you don't need that space of time between July and December in order to produce and get things to the shelves. I'm gonna leave you with this one. And this one's kind of an open-ended deal. And it relates to kind of one of the first points that we talked about when it comes to audience. I think one of the biggest things that ICAST is struggling with, just from a functional, principled mission standpoint, is who is their audience? You know, it used to be the dealers and the brands. Then the pros got involved because they were there to kind of plug the new products, but now it's all about like them making deals with the brands as well. You get a lot of those backroom kind of contract deals, things like that. And then starting maybe, I think the last time I went was like 2012, like a lot of the influencers started coming in, and now it's just flooded with them. And then there's all these randos, like we talked about, like guys who get passes from their buddies, they get in there, they walk around. Who is your audience? Like, what are you trying to achieve? Who are you trying to communicate with? And I think the right answer is everyone. And that's why it kind of comes back to that initial statement. There needs to be some openness to the public. I understand that it's a trade show, and I understand it's not like defined for the end users. It's not directed towards the end users, but just because that's your original mission, your original format, doesn't mean it shouldn't change, right? Everything evolves, everything has a lifespan, rules, techniques, whatever. And I think this is one of the things where ICAST has really missed the boat. They're trying to kind of navigate in a backwards kind of way these multiple audiences they're trying to serve, and in the end, they're really not serving any of them very well. And I think that's one of the biggest shortcomings that's happening, and that's one of the driving factors that's really hurting participation, hurting relevance, and hurting credibility of the entire format. Like I said originally, I don't want to see ICAST go away. I think it's one of the universal events. It's an old kind of brick and mortar, face-to-face, show-up style event. There's been a bunch of kind of different approaches to doing media, doing kind of like publicity, marketing, which has been cool and very innovative. But I think there needs to be a broader opening to it overall. And I think in general, that will solve a lot of the problems that ICAST is running into. So those are my 2 cents, dude. I think if there's one big change that they need to make, it's the openness to the public. Whether that's 1 day, whether that's 2 days, whether that's all the days, I think that's a starting point, and that would be my suggestion, because they're missing a huge opportunity. And the other thing is the date. I know they won't change it, but the date would be a huge move forward to give the show a lot more like relevance and a lot more value for both the brands, the vendors, and then even like, you know, content creators like us, dude. All this new stuff is coming out. It's a great opportunity to hype. I might even go, to be totally honest, dude. If it was in like January or so, December, there might be like enough reason for me to go see all this new stuff for the upcoming fishing season and go and hang out and shoot a bunch of videos and show you guys stuff. So I think there really needs to be a revision, a reevaluation by the guys that run ICAST, and even the brands need to suggest this, and the vendors, the guys that go and participate. They need to get value out of ICAST too. It's a reciprocal relationship when it comes to these kinds of shows, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to evolve and develop and make ICAST great again, dude, for lack of a better word, right? Let me know what you guys think though down in the comments box. Like I said, these are just my opinions. Be critical of them. I know some of them are a little outside the road, but you know, like, I'm going to speak my mind. That's what I think. But definitely let me know what you guys think down in the comments box. And if you're going to ICAST, I'd love to know why you're going and what value it provides for you. But I'm going to go fishing. I'm sweating my balls off. We're going to go hook a few and have some fun. We will talk later, my boys.